Dun. Nice cup of coffee. Hello everyone, my name is Robbie Knecht. In this video, I'm going to talk about randomness. Ooh. I'm enjoying this new microphone. Played around with it a little bit. Alright, so I just got done reading through the Incerto series by Nassim Taleb. There are, in order, you could probably read them out of order. I read them in order, and I'll probably reread them here shortly. The first one he came out with was Fooled by Randomness. Second one was The Black Swan. Third one, Antifragility or Antifragile. And fourth one is called Skin in the Game. Fooled by Randomness and The Black Swan were pretty similar. It's about randomness and Black Swan events and how I want to start this. I guess I should start the video with saying that this video is going to be me regurgitating a lot and trying to understand more of what I read, because one part of learning that I found that helps is to talk about it and to, quote, teach it. And in this case, I'll be trying to do both. So Fooled by Randomness and The Black Swan were both pretty similar, about the same thing. It's about randomness and the Black Swan. The best, I think it's called an analogy or metaphor. I'm going to stick with analogy. The best analogy that came up was, he talked about the turkey analogy, where it's like a guy is feeding a group of turkeys, and days go by and he's just continuing to feed these turkeys, and the turkeys are like, oh, I love this guy is my homie. Feeding the turkeys. Okay, so it's like day 1000 of feeding the turkeys. The turkeys are nice and comfortable. It's been 1,000 days. This guy, he's fed us so much food. I love this guy. He's like my best friend in the whole wide world. And then day 1001 comes, and the guy chops off one of the turkey's heads. All of a sudden, all the turkeys are like, what the hell is going on? This guy, he's killing us. He just fed us, and now he killed one of our own. What is going on? That was so random. Well, yes and no. It was random for the turkeys, because it was all they really knew was, hey, this guy's feeding us. I like this guy. He's a cool homie. Well, for the guy, also known as a butcher, he knew that when day 1001 comes, he was going to kill one of the turkeys because it was Thanksgiving, and he wanted to have a nice, delicious feast with his family. So to the turkeys, it was a random event. To the guy, also known as a butcher, the turkey's homies at one point in time, he knew the whole time that day 1001, one of the turkeys, it was lights out for them. So what does this mean? One of the things that kind of popped into my head was that randomness is a lack of knowledge. What we think of as being random is really just not knowing enough or not, just ignorance. Randomness is ignorance. I think ignorance means like, well, here, I'll look it up just so we can get specific and I don't do anything wrong here. Excuse me. Ignorance, lack of knowledge or information. So randomness is ignorance. if one of the turkeys was to, at one point in time, start to question, like, why does this guy have all these knives? Why are there like a couple feathers on the ground over there? If the turkeys began to question, which turkeys probably aren't really the best at questioning, so I'm going to kind of personify the turkeys. If the turkeys started to question, like, I don't really understand why this guy has all these knives. I don't really see him use them that often. And I also have seen a couple feathers. I don't really know what those are for. What does this mean? Then the turkeys could start to get a little inclination what this homie was up to. And maybe on day 1001, that one turkey that was curious on what's with the knives and what's with the feathers, on day 1001, maybe the curious turkey was the one that did not get butchered for the delicious Thanksgiving dinner. So that's kind of what Fooled by Randomness and The Black Swan. Those are just probably the briefest summary of what I got out of those two, because those two were pretty similar, Fooled by Randomness and The Black Swan. The third book, he also had another book called The Bed of Procrustes. It's I think that came out between The Black Swan and Antifragility, so right there in the middle. And that one was more of like aphorisms and like couple sentence sayings to ponder, like read one and kind of just ponder it for the rest of your life type situation. Antifragility was the subtitle for Antifragility was Things That Gain from Disorder. So the best way to think about this one is, he was saying, like, he asked the question, what's the opposite? I watched also a lot of Nassim, the author's, Nassim Nicholas Taleb's YouTube videos and lectures and talks and stuff to better understand what he's talking about. And he's like, what's the opposite of fragile? And he said it's not robust, because fragile is like things that don't really gain from disorder. It's kind of keeping in line with the randomness and Black Swan stuff. It's like a coffee cup. So I have this coffee cup. This coffee cup, one would say, is fragile. Let me drink this coffee. One could say this coffee cup is fragile because it doesn't really have anything to gain from random type events. For example, if an earthquake was to hit where I live right now and knock this coffee cup really has it only has stuff to lose. If it was to fall off, it would break, and that's about it. It's really only good at holding liquids or holding things and breaking. That's pretty much what the coffee cup is good for. Now, he said there was like a triad. There was there was fragile, the coffee cup. There was robust, which is if this coffee cup was made of steel, like this hydro flask is. So this would be a robust thing. So if this hydro flask was next to the coffee cup and an earthquake was to happen and they both fell off, well, nothing would really happen to this because it's robust, it's strong, it can handle a lot of things. It doesn't gain anything from it. It's just it'll last a while because it's strong and it's pretty difficult to break. Well, what he's saying is the opposite of fragile. Fragile is things that lose from disorder. Anti-fragile is the opposite. It's something that gains from disorder. So let's say, for example, the coffee cup again. Now let's say this coffee cup is anti-fragile. It's not, but let's just do this thought experiment. Say this coffee cup is anti-fragile and a random earthquake happens and the coffee cup falls off the table. If it was anti-fragile, it wouldn't break. It would actually get stronger and gain from that random event. So basically, it is anti-fragile is things that gain from disorder. So another example you can use is I work out so that I can break down my body slight bit, but then from that breaking down, I grow more than the previous benchmark. So it's like I'm at this benchmark, I work out and I kind of break down my body a little bit. Let's say I'm at this benchmark, I break down my body a little bit from working out. So now I'm down here. And then I give my body enough time to recover. Well, I'm actually up here now. My last benchmark was here, and now I'm here because my body is anti-fragile. It gained from that disorder, that breaking down. So that's kind of anti-fragile, things that gain from disorder. So in the world of investing, I guess that's one way to approach things now, and one way try to approach this with like investing is like, if a random event that I cannot predict happens, would this thing go up or would it go down? So that's like one angle I'm trying to take at things now. Will this thing that I'm doing provide more opportunities or not, or provide more destruction? Is there more downside than upside? Is this a coffee cup or is this a anti-fragile coffee cup? And last but not least, we have skin in the game. Skin in the game is basically a good way to sum that one up is he talks about the Code of Hammurabi. I actually haven't read this one yet, but I have it so that I read it eventually. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the codes in there talks about how there is an architect. One of the codes they had, one of Hammurabi's codes was, if an architect builds a building and the building was to collapse on someone, then the architect shall also have the same fate as the person who died. So basically, if I build a house, if I'm an architect and build a house and someone dies in that house because of a structural problem or just a poor design of the house, then I should also perish the same fate as the person that died in the house that I built. So it's basically, it would make the architect, in this case myself, put a lot more effort into making a better, quote, product or a better thing, because I would suffer consequences if something wrong was to happen. And one of his arguments, if you watch like his videos and stuff, is that currently we don't really live in a world that has that type of skin in the game. He uses like the banks, for example. It's like bank managers are getting bonuses and stuff. He's talking specifically on like the 2008 financial crisis, financial real estate crisis. Like all these banks had like we're getting all these bonuses, and then the real estate market crashed and they got bailed out by the government, except the banks didn't have to pay anything and they kept their bonuses. Well, I don't know if this is all true. I'm probably butchering it, but it's more of just the idea. The bank managers kept all their $1 million bonuses, got bailed out by the government, and if that's the case, that means the banks didn't really, they got all the gain from the real estate market going up, but as soon as it went boom, they got bailed out, so they didn't have to pay anything. They kept all the bonuses on the way up going like that. And except when the government has to pay for the bailouts, that who pays the government? It's the taxpayer. So it's everyone else had to pay for the loss that the bank created. So if this is the case, the bank is the architect. They built the house, and then the house collapses and kills a bunch of people, but the architect is still walking around building a bunch of houses that are similar to the one that collapsed. So essentially, the banks had no skin in the game, I think is what he's trying to say. It's an interesting read. It's very captivating. It's not I did not get a textbook style read. It has stories. There's characters in the book. I love the style of writing that it is. And it's definitely one that I'll probably come back to. I've definitely already have reread them and many more times to come to really understand randomness and uncertainty and how best to take advantage of or set myself up in situations where if something was to happen, like an opportunity pops off. One way that I'm doing that, or one of the things that comes to mind of that is YouTube, for example. I posted in the previous video talking about my what happened on YouTube. It's like I created a keto cracker video. It took me about 2.5 hours to create the video, recording and posting or editing and posting and all. And that video got 55,000 views on it. Well, it's like, whoa, that was random. Because it was just like I was just kind of creating videos, and then a random event happened and it just popped off, got 55,000 views. So it's like, okay, the algorithms of YouTube will, if it hits something, it'll find its people and something will come of it. So that's just one way I'm trying to take advantage of the randomness idea, if that makes any sense. Okay. I need more coffee. My voice is getting a little coarse. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Like it. Comment down below your thoughts on randomness and the Incerto series by Nassim Taleb. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Love you. Bye.